Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is AmyR with Prairie Paper and Ink, and these are my cards for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge, as well as part of my Christmas card series, of course. And this week's colors, again, I was kind of like, I thought it was red and it was actually orange. So it's blue, orange, and gray, or you can use silver. So of course I went with silver because bling. So I started with some blue cardstock. This is Simon Says Stamp's Surf Blue cardstock, and I cut it down into 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch pieces, and I got a couple here. And I'm just using my little Wendy Vecchi Station, because it's got the magnets, so I can hold the stencil that I'm using, which is Simon's Falling Snow stencil. This came out years ago. I've had this stencil for years. I remember getting my hands on it a few years ago, and just I love it because I like how it's got all the different little sizes of snow. I don't know, it's one of these ones that just I pull it out every year at winter time. So I applied that over my cardstock, and then I'm just using Wendy Vecchi white texture paste or embossing paste, same thing. Very simple. This container, same thing. I've had this for 2 or 3 years. I haven't quite used up because I've been, using all the glitter paste and all the different things. This is one of those ones that just doesn't seem to dry out. It's been good. So pulled that out, applied it, and I did this twice because, I had all these pieces of cardstock. So I decided to make 2 cards. I'm just using one of my little Tonic media spatulas here to apply it, just in a fairly kind of thin, mostly even coat. Once I'm done applying it, I don't have to worry too much with this embossing paste, like cleaning off my tools immediately. Anything like a glitter paste, like I mentioned every time I use it, if it's like a glitter paste or other pastes, a lot of times you want to wash your stencil, wipe off your spatula, etc. immediately because it's like hard to remove. But this stuff, it's really easy to remove. So I'm not in a rush because I want to do this while the paste is still wet on the cardstock. So I have my little glitter duster here with glitter in it. This is Simon's Unicorn Glitter, which is just a iridescent glitter. And all the glitter duster does is it literally just sprays glitter, just in a very, very light amount. So when you want that just very light effect, not, glitter just dumped on it, this is really kind of handy. So I have it in my little splat box here just so I don't get glitter absolutely everywhere. And I still applied it fairly heavy on this, but because it just lightly sprays it, it's not completely, coating a layer of glitter. And the glitter is going to stick to this embossing paste, and then the embossing paste will hold onto it as it dries. So it just gives it a nice light glitter. If you want a solid glitter snow look, use a glitter embossing paste. That's the way to go. But this, I wanted it to be just subtle, not crazy, crazy bling, because I'm going to be using glitter paper and stuff too. So I set those aside to dry, and then wiped off my stencil, etc. And then I pulled out all the wafer dies I want to use. So I have the Simon Says Stamp Picture Book Snowman. This also came out, I think it was 2 years ago. I'll have links to everything as always. I made sure all this is all current, still available. Just a lot of it's old because I like reusing some of my old favorites. So I have that, and I have 3 different snowflakes. A couple of them are new, and then one is an older one. So I have the MARYANNE snowflake, the Grace snowflake, and the Leah snowflake. And I have Simon's silver glitter paper. And I'm going to die cut these snowflakes from that glitter paper. I'm just going to use my GEMINI Go for this because regardless of which GEMINI machine, this is the littlest one, and then there's the GEMINI Junior, and then there's the GEMINI, which is the big one. The thing I really love about these machines is intricate dies like this, like these snowflakes and anything with a ton of detail. These cut through with those dies like butter. I don't have to fiddle, and it takes 1 pass. So I ran these through my GEMINI Go. I do have the little metal shim that comes with this die cut machine in here as well, because it just gives it that extra little bit of depth so that these dies cut through perfectly. And yeah, these snowflakes cut through that glitter paper like it was nothing. So die cut these snowflakes. I'd also die cut all the pieces for the Picture Book Snowman just from cardstock. And then use my little die pick to poke out any of the little, pieces inside the snowflakes here. And by this point, my embossing paste is completely dry. There's still a bit of glitter on the cardstock itself from the glitter duster, so I just brushed that off using my big old surface sweep. And I'll have a link to that too. People have been asking. I always link or try to remember to link to absolutely everything just so that people can find the things, and it's always when I forget to link to something. It's always that one thing I forget that I get an email about. But I will have a link to this. So I just brushed off the excess glitter, and then I trimmed down this piece to be slightly smaller than an A2 card. And now I'm going to start laying everything out the way I had laid out the dies originally. Just, you know, I'd done that just to give myself a mental kind of vision of how I wanted all this to go. I also used the MARYANNE frame wafer dies, and I just adhere those. I die cut them from white and burnt orange cardstock and adhered them together. And then my little picture book snowman here, I am going to use washi tape, which has been my go-to with dies like this that have all different pieces and need to be assembled and whatnot. So I just back the snowman body with the washi tape. I'm still going to add a little bit of glue to the openings just to give it some extra stick, because washi tape obviously is very low tack. I love it because it's just convenient and easy. It makes me use my washi tape. That's pretty much what I use mostly. We use washi tape for is things like this and like taping down dies and stuff. But it's low tack, so I want to make sure these, you know, stay together. So I added little dabs of kraft tacky glue, and then I just pick up the little pieces with my jewel picker, or reverse tweezers work as well. I use the reverse tweezers just to poke things out. And then I'm going to adhere everything into place. And then I'm going to use another piece of washi tape so I can put his hat on him. Same thing, just kind of have the washi tape facing up. So I have like sticky side facing up. And then I die cut the hat portions from some black cardstock and that same silver glitter cardstock for the band around his hat. So got those adhered into place. So I've basically got all of my elements done. It's just a matter of assembling them. This is another one of those cards where I don't do any stamping, at least not on the outside. There are no stamps. It's just a stencil and then a bunch of die cuts. So there's also a little scarf wafer die that comes with this little picture book snowman and just kind of finishes them off. So I die cut that from the burnt orange cardstock as well, and then adhered it into place. And then to adhere the die cut snowflakes, I just use little dabs of the kraft tacky glue just around the centers of the snowflakes so that the edges just kind of pop up a little bit. So I'm going to adhere those into place first with the kraft tacky glue. And then I'll adhere my die cut sentiment and my little snowman kind of on top of that. And I'm going to reinforce my snowman with just a scrap of cardstock, basically giving him a backbone. I instilled some confidence in my snowman and gave him a backbone. Because with that, just like, you know, it's just being adhered with a piece of, you know, washi tape. It's a little bit floppy. So I wanted to reinforce him a little bit since I want to pop him up with some foam tape. So just cut a little scrap of cardstock and adhered that down. And then I'm going to use Simon's Big Mama foam tape to adhere my die cut sentiment and my snowman here. So it just pops up with that little bit of dimension and, you know, doesn't make everything too bulky. So once I got the foam tape in place, I can peel off the backing and then adhere my sentiment first, and then I'll pop the little snowman right onto the sentiment. And then as a final bit of embellishment, I pulled out the Studio Caudia Ripe Persimmon Pearls, which I didn't think I'd be using past Halloween because, you know, they're orange, but they're a nice dark sort of orange. Like, they're not like bright orange, and they match perfectly with this burnt orange cardstock. So they were kind of just the perfect embellishment to kind of tie everything together. So I kind of sprinkled those on my card front here. And then I'm going to just adhere them into place with the kraft tacky glue, and I'll use my jewel picker again. Side note about the jewel picker, because that's another thing I get asked a lot. What do you do when it like stops being sticky? You just need to clean it. A lot of times the end starts picking up, you know, just glue over time, and the glue dries and then it's hard and the jewel picker doesn't want to work. So you can just wash it with some little bit of gentle soap and water. Be very careful with it, because that, whatever it is on the ends of these, that little green bit and the red bit on the other end, can tear really easily. So I just either wash it or I'll wipe it with a baby wipe just carefully and remove any of that. It will make it super sticky. You'll go from it not sticking at all to it being ridiculously sticky. It's sometimes hard to find the sweet spot. But after I clean it, sometimes if it's too sticky, I will barely, and I mean barely, touch it into some anti-static powder. And that usually kind of takes care of it. So that's another random tip of the day. Anywho, on the inside of the cards, I'm using my absolute favorite stamp set for sentiments, the Holiday Greetings Mix one. Again, I use this in almost every single video. I love it. So I lined up several sentiments from the set, so it will spell out wishing you a merry and bright Christmas on the inside of the card. So I'm lining these all up, and I'm just doing this in my MISTI since I'm doing 2 cards, making it easy. And I'm going to stamp the sentiment with Simon's Burnt Orange dye ink. So stamp that onto the inside of both cards. And then to finish them off, the holiday greeting set has snowflakes, which I also want to use on everything. I'm going to ink up those stamps with Simon's Surf Blue ink and stamp those around the sentiment just to, again, bring in some more of that blue. So I'm continuing the color theme on the inside of the card. So after I've got the sentiment stamped, I can then stamp the snowflakes. And then while I was doing this, I was thinking about the envelopes, which I don't always show in videos. More often than not, I don't have the time to decorate envelopes. But while I was doing this, I was like, oh, I have those burnt orange envelopes in my stash. Those would work perfectly. While I have everything out, let's stamp the envelopes too. So I pulled the envelopes out. I quickly cleaned off these snowflake stamps. And I'm going to stamp the envelopes with the snowflakes, but I'm going to white heat emboss them because the blue ink obviously is not going to show up on the orange envelopes. So I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool and that big surface sweep brush to brush off the excess anti-static powder. So coat the fronts of the envelopes with the anti-static powder, brush off the excess. Then I can stamp the snowflakes with Simon's clear embossing ink. Once I've got them stamped, and I just kind of stamp, if I am going to add embellishment envelopes, I like to do like the lower left, and I'll maybe sometimes add a little bit to like the lower right, so that leaves obviously the center area clear for writing to the recipient, leaves the top right corner clear for adding postage, and it leaves the top left open for my return address. But yeah, stamp those snowflakes, coated them with the detail white embossing powder, brushed off any excess powder that just, you know, likes to cling. And then I'm going to melt these with my heat tool. And then I'm going to have coordinating envelopes with these cards, which just really, the orange just really sets it off. Again, this is why I love the color throwdown challenge, because I would not, especially at Christmas time, think of doing like, let's do blue and orange and gray together. And yet it really works. It really works. It's just fun. So I melted the snowflakes with my heat tool. And then all I have to do now is just kind of finish assembling my cards. So I'm going to fold over both of these card bases, and both cards are top folding A2 cards, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm just reinforcing that fold with my Teflon bone folder. And then I'm going to adhere the finished panels to the card bases just with the kraft tacky glue. So once these are adhered, these cards are finished. So like I mentioned earlier, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. In my blog post, I'll have a graphic for the color throwdown challenge. I'll have a link to the challenge if you want to check it out. All the info about the challenge is in that blog, so I have a link to it on mine. And then I'll also have, of course, my supply list with links to all the supplies I used, etc. So you can check that all out directly below the video if you are interested, as well as on my blog, which is always linked as well. And then here you can kind of see just that very subtle glitter that was trapped in the embossing paste. It just gives it that little extra something. So thank you guys so much for watching, for subscribing, for thumbs upping, for commenting. I really, really appreciate it. Stay tuned. I'm going to have a ton of videos coming. I'm playing catch up and getting like as much editing done at once. So I'm going to have a lot coming. So stay tuned. And as always, like I said, check out the description box below the video. And then I have links to my blog. I also have links to all my social media. People have been asking about that. That's all at the very bottom of the description box as well. So you can always find me. And yeah, I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.